one such place that we can have this conversation just to begin with is in sex.
True.
You know, what is the expectation in the marriage as it relates to sex? How many times? In terms, the frequency and duration and the wins and the wheres and the whats and the hows and all of these kinds of things. I'll be the first to tell you that married sex is not the same as unmarried sex.
Hey, so we're continuing our conversation about restoring marital relationships after the trust has been broken. And we've been really having some great discussions about some of the different things that create conflict in a marriage and unfortunately lead to divorce and broken homes. And so today's topic, or subtopic, if you will, is unmet expectations. So we talked at length about some of the other things like communication, infidelity, financial mismanagement, emotional abuse, and all kinds of domestic abuse, verbal, physical, and emotional abuse. And today we're talking about unmet expectations. All right, guys, let's jump into it. What are some of the unmet expectations?
Well, I guess that could be that question is going to be as broad as there are people. So they're going to be a myriad of unmet expectations. I think that part of the thing that we have to understand about, well, first of all, let's go here. We know that disappointment is when expectations go unmet, right? And so what happens is in a marital relationship, we all come into it with some preconceived ideas as to what the marriage is going to be about, what it's going to be like. Are we going to be are we going to have the white picket fence and the dog and the cat and the 2 cars in the garage and all of this kind of stuff? Is my wife going to be, every time I come home from work, she's going to be in the kitchen with her apron, cooking dinner or whatever the expectations are. We have some for our wives and our wives have some for us. The question that needs to be asked first, though, about the expectations, whether they're met or unmet, is have they been communicated?
That's real.
Because oftentimes we're getting upset with one another over expectations that we have not carefully articulated, to a point to make sure that the person actually understands what it is that we expect and have agreed to try and provide what our level of expectation is. One such place that we can have this conversation just to begin with is in sex.
True.
What is the expectation in the marriage as it relates to sex? How many times? In terms, the frequency and duration and the wins and the wheres and the whats and the hows and all of these kinds of things. I'll be the first to tell you that married sex is not the same as unmarried sex. It is not. And if you're expecting married sex to be like unmarried sex, then you're going to be disappointed. Because there's one thing I said before that that unmarried sex has that married sex does not, and that's sin. And sin is exciting. Yeah, it's exciting. So it changes the entire dynamic in terms of your expectations. They have to be tempered to meet the new dynamics. Go ahead, Brother Sid. I'm sorry.
And then and where those expectations can be picked up at. We pick those things up by looking at others, fairy tales, movie, family, friends.
Sure.
So we pick up those unmet expectations. We also, I look at how we manage those unmet expectations. Pastor, you mentioned something about communication, which is huge, but also selfishness, also pride, also insensitivity. We can be insensitive to others.
Yeah.
Where we just can just be flat out just not. We're not empathetic or sympathetic with these expectations because we don't communicate those things. Our marriage is just not to survive, but our marriage is also to thrive. So that's important. So that communication, making sure that we check in pride at the door, making sure that any preconceived notions that we may have, any desires that we may have, we need to communicate those things, and not just communicate, but communicate them effectively in those unmet expectations and manage it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you need to do, and that need to, I'm sorry, and that needs to be did with a place of love and respect.
Yeah.
It needs to be placed in love and respect when we're trying to manage these unmet expectations.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, both of you guys are underlining communication and communication, you know, because what happens, we go into this marriage with this false expectation, right? Based on, or should I say, you get exposed to one partner prior to marriage, right? And then that person
Sure.
becomes someone different when children are involved, right? Or too much workload and things of that nature. But
Yeah,
mostly,
once life does what it does.
right, when life does it. And so it's about constantly communicating and constantly maturing, right? Constantly maturing, because if you're expecting that same, hey, run in the house and do whatever you want to do, or whatever the things that the bait that caught you and put you on the hook, right? And I get it, but a lot of times we tacitly assume that sexual energy is still going to be there even when we're settled into a family. And even though we have to work around certain things, you think that energy is still just supposed to be there when it's not a given. It's not a given. You know, I could have a long day at work and really feel like just going to sleep, or she could have a long day with the kids and be too tired, right? Or whatever that nature is, and God forbid sickness is in play. You're different, right? People, we change. And so I think that, to your point, we can't just tacitly assume certain things. We've got to have a verbal conversation and understanding.
You know, and you
Hey guys, it's Pastor John here. Please, if you like this video that you just saw, hit that like button for us. Second thing I want to ask you to do is to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're putting out videos once a day at about 5:30 p.m. Hit that bell notification so that you'll know when a new video has been uploaded. And then the final thing to do, share this video, share this information. If you know somebody that has a need that it can be benefited by it, please put it out in circulation so that we can try to help as many people as possible. Thanks, and God bless.